Happy Saturday, everybody. My name is Desi or Advent, depending where you know me from. In this channel, I'm dedicated to sharing my experiences and expertise in trading psychology and mindset, as well as some technical strategies to help you guys become more efficient and patient traders. So, no charts today, so put your charts away. We're kind of just going to go off the top. I'm just really going to talk about my experience trading the last 5 years. It's been 5 years last month. Time definitely flies. Pretty much is going to go over some things that I think it's important for new and experienced traders to know, and kind of giving you a little bit of insight into my journey. Not really going to be too structured, just really going to go based off some topics that I have here. So, kind of what brought up this video is I started taking judo recently, and it's interesting being in a role where I'm like brand new to something, right? And it really brings me back to when I started first trading, right? As new traders, you want to make a bunch of money and, live the life you want and so on and so forth. But you have to go through very specific steps in order to be there, right? So let's say, for example, for me in judo, my first class, I was like, people were like throwing people and doing different techniques. And I'm like, oh, I want to do that too. But in judo, the first thing that they teach you is how to fall correctly. Because if you do not learn how to fall correctly, then you are going to injure yourself and you're going to have a real bad time. So you always need to go with a proper foundation and build from there. If you try to skip everything, you're going to injure yourself with bad form, bad technique, and all of that good stuff. And moving it over to trading, if you don't have a good understanding of risk management, patience, working strategy, and emotional control, you are going to be in a risk of financial ruin, which we definitely want to avoid. So, as I just mentioned, being new at something, right? So, as always, if you are new to something, in order to get good at it, you need to suck at it, right? That's how it is for everything. We were babies. We wanted to run, but we need to learn how to crawl and then walk, right? There's always steps as we continue going higher. One thing that was really prevalent when I first started trading, at least a little after, maybe like a few months after I started trading, my life wasn't really in order as I would have liked it, or as it is now. A lot of things were going on at the time. You guys can see one of my other videos on what it takes to be a successful trader, where I kind of go in like a lot more detail. But one thing that I see happening a lot with new traders is they tend to jump into trading when their life is chaotic. And I'll tell you from personal experience, if your life is chaotic, you're going to have a rough time starting out in trading. Now, of course, this is not true for everybody. Some people can still excel in those moments. For me, it was challenging until I got things in order. So, for example, let's say I'll give you an example that I heard recently. This individual had a ton of debt, a little bit of money, maybe like $1,000. And their dream was to turn that $1,000 into a substantial amount where they can pretty much quit their job. And actually, I don't even think they had a job, to pretty much trade full time and have that sustain themselves. I'm going to tell you right now, if you're in the situation where you have like $500,000 to your name and you don't have a job and you're trying to trade full time to make millions, it's a pipe dream, and the probability of you succeeding is extremely low. And don't take this as one of those, I'm going to prove him wrong. I'm telling you right now, I've worked with over 300 people, probably more than 500 at this point, and I've come across some individuals in those states, and they never succeeded because their expectations, which I'll talk about a little later, were way too high with what they had at the time. So, what I always encourage you guys to do, get your life in order as much as you can. It's going to make your trading a lot easier because you're not going to be trading from a desperation state, right? You don't want to only rely on trading in the beginning for your income. You still want to be working a regular job to pay your bills and all those other things. And if you have families, that is not a luxury that you can afford to have. You can't be out here without a job trying to make trading work for you, right? Cool. For me, during that time in my life, my like habits were super poor. I wasn't eating properly, wasn't sleeping properly, wasn't taking care of my health properly. Like a lot was happening at the time. So once I met my life coach and he helped me get that in order, my trading and my life changed tremendously. Shout out Jacob. Love that man. I'll put his information in the description. And let me make a note on that before I forget. Cool. Next thing, patience is going to be key, right? As I was mentioning earlier, having your expectations, because uh, I see a lot of traders tend to fail in this area here, right? When it comes to patience. And I'll go over some things that go into that. So you start trading, you think you're going to be making thousands, millions of dollars in a month or two. Some cases, is that true? Yes. When I first started trading, I went from 4,000 to about 48,000 in about 3 months, or actually, no, about 5, 6 months. Granted, I was mainly taking a lot of signals from my first mentor, which helped me grow that account really quickly. There were some trades in there that I took myself, but a lot of it came from learning from him. Now, what I tend to see, as I mentioned, with traders not having proper expectations, remember, you need to go through the trading process step by step. Now, when I first started trading, it was in 2020. Anybody can make money. You throw money at anything and you make money. If you're starting now in these current market conditions, I'm gonna tell you from my experience, this is probably, I wouldn't really use the words the most challenging, but I would say it's definitely an interesting time to be trading because you can be in a position, Trump will just send a tweet out and your position could get cooked in half a second. So there's many new variables that make the market super volatile that can impede the speed at which you progress as a trader, at least in my experience. So again, the biggest thing is patience, right? If you do want to leave your job or use trading as a supplement to your job and make more money on top of that, patience is going to be key. As I mentioned, there's a lot of things that comes into trading, right? Reading charts is going to be big. Learning about yourself, risk management, journaling, patience, all that stuff is going to come into play, and you need to learn all of those things. And especially if you're going to be going over into derivative trading, like options, futures, crypto leverage, things like that, you're going to need a lot more patience when it comes to learning those concepts because if you try to speed things up, your account is going to be gone, right? I started working with this new individual about 2, 3 weeks ago, and he started off with about what I think $3,000 he started off with, and he went from 3,000 to 4,000 in a week. Now he tends to be a lot more aggressive that I personally would do myself. But here's the problem. I always prefer new traders to start small, right? Let's say 500 or $1,000, whatever it may be. And then you're slowly building the account as you're practicing, the fundamentals, right? Patience, risk management, discipline, all those things, taking your setups, controlling your emotions, all those practices. So went from 3,000 to 4,000 in a week. And unfortunately, this is why I don't like having traders go from paper to live. I wish he told me until it was too late. Side note, I notice and tend to notice a lot that people tend to reach out for help when things are really bad. I would highly encourage anybody that's going through any struggles or issues to reach out to somebody a lot sooner than later before it gets bad, right? You don't want to blow your account and then get to the point where you're taking out loans to trade. If you get to that point, trading is like shouldn't even be a thing. Anyway, going back to the example. So On, I think to the fifth or sixth day after he made $1,000, he lost $1,000 in one day in two trades. So because he got overconfident in the capability that he thought he had, in two trades, he lost all of the money because he thought that because he was winning so much, he can just increase his risk or the amount he puts into a trade, which messed him up and he lost all that. So I instilled a, what's the word? I guess like a ban. I'm like, you're banned from using real money for the next month. You got to go back to the basics because you're trying to jump hoops, right? You shouldn't even be live trading right now. But, I can't control what people don't tell me. Anyway, so the lesson here, going into the next portion, risk management, journaling, self review, and self awareness is going to be key to you succeeding as a trader. In the beginning, as this gentleman did, that's what the same thing that happened to me. I went from the 4,000 to about 48,000. I'm like, well, I'm making all this money. Let me just use even more of a position size because I was using like $1,000 position sizes at the time. And then I went from 1,000 to 4,000. Mentally, I was ready to see the bigger profits, but I was not ready mentally and emotionally to see the bigger losses. So when I was putting on that $4,000 position size, to be exact, 4,400, because I'll never forget this trade. $4,400, put it into that trade, and I was trading options. Now, the on the chart, it hit my stop loss, and the loss was maybe like 400, 500 bucks. I wasn't really ready for that loss at the time, so I was like, well, I'll just wait. I still have like 6 months of the contract expire. And in the usual fashion, I continued to hold on to a losing position and started hoping. Remember, hoping is not a strategy. So if you're starting to hope, that's a big indicator and red flag that you need to get out of the trade because you're no longer following the original plan. So I went from being down $400 to $500 to at the end, I had like maybe a month left in the contract, and I was down about 39 to 4,200 on that trade, being stubborn and hoping as opposed to just cutting the trade. That was my biggest loss to date. And that messed me up for a while. It took me a while to get out of that mentally. I started being really scared to get into trades after that. So, again, risk management, extremely important. Don't ever marry a trade. There's going to be many, many more. If you have to take the loss, it is what it is. It's not the end of the world. There's going to be many more trades, right? So, um, talking about losing, right, and not marrying a trade, understand that losing in trading is here to teach you, right? You need to embrace it because I see a lot of people not wanting to lose and they look at losing as a bad thing. What I find is that these individuals tend to bring their human experience, like their 9 to 5 corporate world, 9 to 5 mindset into trading, and trading and that are two very different things. So, in the 9 to 5 world, corporate world, how do we get ahead? Right? We get ahead by winning. We get ahead by putting all our effort into things, so on and so forth. And of course, if something bad happens or you lose in that world, then you don't get a promotion, you don't get more money, so on and so forth. And people tend to bring that into trading from what I've noticed and seen. So again, you need to separate those things. In trading, you lose or you learn by losing. So always flip it into a positive. When you lose a trade, sure, if you're frustrated, feel the frustration, don't put it aside, but come back to a positive state, right? All right, I lost this trade. Does it suck? Yes. Is it annoying? Yes. However, what can I learn from this trade so I can either try to avoid this in the future or work on maybe avoiding this type of trade, right? Some things that you can ask yourself. For example, there was a trade that I took on Wednesday, this past Wednesday, that lost. Now, when it comes to identifying your losing trades, I like to kind of keep them in two or three categories. Did you lose because the market just wasn't in your favor? In the sense of, did you get into the trade and you followed every single step and it just didn't work in your favor? Or did you lose because you were breaking a rule, right? And then when you can identify why you lost a trade, that's going to help you understand what you can do to help, right? Let's say, as an example, if I got into a trade and let's say there's three pieces of criteria and only two of them I waited for, then I lost that trade. One, because it actually wasn't my setup. Because if it was my setup, all three pieces of the criteria would be there, which in this case, it was not. So that can be something for me to learn is that, hey, look, to avoid these losses, you need to make sure that all of the requirements and all of the criteria is there when you are about to take a trade. If it isn't, then leave it alone. And then you can go even deeper into it. Why did you not wait for that third confirmation? Were you feeling a little desperate? Were you feeling a little FOMO? Like, what was the mental idea that kind of made that like as an almost like an impulse trade for you to get in, right? Very, very important questions to ask yourself. This is where you're going to learn about yourself and really creating that self-awareness in trading. Cool. Oh, last thing about that section. Leave your ego aside. The market doesn't care about you. I don't care about you to an extent. Doesn't matter what you want, the market is going to do whatever it is going to do. Once you learn to understand that and just trade in sync with the market and being okay with what happens, win or lose, that's really all that matters. Because again, you can have the greatest setup of all time, but it's going to lose, right? And if you try to prove that you're a winner and not a loser to the market, it's going to humble you very quick. So again, don't go into trading trying to be a winner. Don't bring that ego into it because, again, you're going to mess yourself up. I've seen this countless times. People do not want to take the loss because they think it means something to them. Again, your value as a human being and you as a trader are very different. Do not bring those together. Losing in trading doesn't mean that you may be a loser or what have you in real life, right? That just means you lost a trade, depending on the circumstances on why you lost it, right? So again, leave your ego at the door. It does not belong in trading. You will mess yourself up and lose thousands of dollars by doing that. Cool. Let's see. Next, let's go over risk management, journaling, self-awareness. So trading is what I've really learned is trading is really about discovering yourself. I've learned a lot about myself and I've changed a lot since I started trading, right? While yes, you're going to learn how to trade, you're going to learn about the markets, how the stock market works in conjunction with the world, all these many different things and so on and so forth. But again, trading, you're really going to learn about yourself, right? For example, you get into a trade and then you weren't patient and then you wanted to just jump in there. Why did that happen? Why were you feeling desperate? So on and so forth. For example, when in the first year and change that I started trading and I started getting into that drawdown phase, I learned that the reason why I was being so desperate to make a lot of money at that time was because I wanted to leave the situation that I was in at the time. And that made me make a lot of mistakes. And it wasn't until that I really sat down with myself. I'm like, all right, look, regardless of what's happening right now, I can't be bringing this into trading because I'm going to pretty much stay in this loop and I'm not going to get out of it. Right. So take your time, be patient, and go through the motions. Also, journaling. When it comes to journaling, have two journals, one for your trades and two for yourself. Go over how you're feeling, what's going on in your life. If you had a fight with somebody, whatever it is, put it on paper. If you can get it out of your head, It's going to help you a lot. That way, you're not keeping that in and you're not bringing it to the next trading session. Side note, every trading session is different. So, whatever happened last week, whatever happened yesterday, whatever happened last month, do not bring it into the new trading session. Every trading session is unique and new. You should not be bringing other things to it. I'll give you a little example. Let's say you lost $300 yesterday and today you're up $300. You might cut that trade at $300 because you're like, cool, if I take my $300 now, I'm going to make up for yesterday's loss. What ends up happening? You cut that trade, and then it goes your favor even more, and you would have made $500 on the trade at your first target or whatever it may have been, following the original plan. So do not bring prior trading sessions into the new one. Every trading session is different. So again, journaling, have one for trading and one for yourself, and write everything down as much detail as you can. Physically write it down. Do not type it or put it on your phone. You think a lot better and it's a lot more intimate, and you learn a lot more when you do that. Cool. Risk management, as I was mentioning earlier, for myself and the other individual and for everybody else, risk management is key, right? You need to understand that, as I mentioned earlier, losing is part of the process. You're going to go through times of drawdown and you need to survive those periods, right? Your setup may not appear every day. It might not appear every week, depending how it is that you trade. You need to really manage your risk. And then when the days do appear where the market wants to work in your favor flawlessly, that's when you can maximize on the gains and things like that, and so on and so forth. But you need to stay alive until that happens. I see it all the time where traders try to make every single day a big trading day. That's not the reality of things. That's not how the market works. You know, the market might go chop for 2 days, right? I'm not good at chop. I'm not good at sideways movement. I don't trade during that because I know it's not profitable for me. There might be some scalpers out there that love choppy markets. I'm definitely not one of them. So you also need to learn what works best for you, which is what journaling is going to help you do. I have a video on that if you want to go deep into it. I'll put it in the description below if you want to check it out. Cool. So again, risk management, you need to survive those drawdown periods. And this happens to everybody. Even the best traders have these drawdown moments. Back this year, I was doing fantastic until mid-April or mid-February when that volatility spiked up. I think the VIX went from like $16 to like $40 and change. I learned that I am not good in extreme volatile times or extreme volatile markets like what was happening after the first half of February and like the first week or two of March. Those 2 weeks, I ended red for futures. Definitely was a rough time for me where I had to take a step back. I'm like, all right, what's going on? Like, what really changed? Because I was doing fantastic and now I'm losing a lot more than I used to. So, again, always take time to journal and always practice risk management, because if I was still trying to use big size during that time, my account would be hurt. So you always, always, always want to follow your risk management. It doesn't matter if you think the trade is going to win and with all your being and all your essence, you think the trade is going to win. Even if it has a 99.9% chance of winning, that 0.1% chance can still be a loser on that trade. Even my best setup, the W trade model, for those who know about it, it still loses. I lost one on Monday or on Wednesday. That was the losing trade that I had. It's my best setup, but it still loses. Perfectly normal. It's to be expected. Not every trade is going to be a winner. Cool. Let's continue. Let's see what else we got. One thing that's going to be important as well, some people, for whatever reason, are against this, which makes zero sense to me, but to each their own. Learning from different individuals, mentors, and having a trading community can be extremely beneficial to you as a new trader and even a seasoned trader, right? For me, I've had about maybe like five or six mentors, and then I had a mentor like outside of trading for like getting my life in order and stuff. So I probably I had like six or seven, maybe six to eight different mentors. And I encourage having more than one, right? I'm reading this book right now. Where is this? Mastering the Trade by John Carter. The first two or three chapters go over like trading psychology and stuff like that. But there, I think it's chapter six when one of his students talks about like in the firm or what have you that John has. I think there's like two to four like of the big traders in there, and the lady in chapter six, she was talking about she was learning from all of them, right? So she'll learn something from John, she'll learn something from this person, learn something else from that person, so on and so forth. And then she kind of put it all together with what works best for her. So she took what worked for her, removed what didn't work for her, and then she made it into her own. Highly, highly, highly encourage that. That's pretty much what I do now. So, like, for example, I had about four or five, what was it, four to five or three to five? Something like that. Anyway, three to five strat mentors who taught me the strat. I had a mentor who taught me Fibonacci retracements. I had another mentor who taught me trading psychology. Shout out Randy Howell. Um, who else? Jacob, I mentioned earlier from my life coach to help me get my life in order. Strat mentors wise, True to the Strat, Faith in the Strat, 100K, Brown Strat King. Mm, think, well, Trust My Levels for Strat and Fibs. Shout out to them. They help me a lot, right? If you want to expedite the learning process, getting a mentor or several is going to help you a lot, right? Like for example, as I mentioned earlier, I my main goal for this channel and really what I even got into mentoring to begin with is really to help traders build their trading system and working on their mindset and trading psychology. It wasn't until like maybe 2 years ago that I started teaching people like the strategy portion because people are like, hey, teach me how to trade. I'm like, all right, I don't really teach this, but I guess I'm starting because the demand is there. So all in all, I took everything that they taught me and then I built a system around it on what works best for me. Like, for example, some individuals that I learned from, they love swing trading. They don't really care about day trading. I like to do both. Some others don't really swing trade, some only day trade. That's cool too. Again, take and learn as much as you can and then simplify it to make it easy for you and what works best for you. Last thing I'll probably mention about that, just to maybe give you a one last bit of detail. For me, the only time frames that I really use is the 5 minute, 15 minute, 30 minute, 1 hour, 4 hour, um, sometimes a daily for day trading, right? For swing trading, I really just look at the daily and the weekly. I don't really care too much about taking monthly setups. That's just me. But again, I know people who and people that have taught me that enjoy using the 1 minute, 2 minute, 3 minute, even the 30-second chart. Omari, I don't know how you do it, but hey, live your life. So me, the 30-second chart, anything under the 5 minute, I'm good. I don't really care for it. And that's what I've learned over time. So again, learn as much as you can from as many people as you can and really just simplify it. I would probably recommend that you go like one at a time. You don't want to learn like 20 different things at the same time. You don't want to get overwhelmed, right? Now, if you find something that works, hey, stick with it. Keep going from there. All right. Cool. So yeah, as I mentioned, keeping things simple, right? When I first started, as I mentioned, as I learned everything from my first mentor, my strat mentors, my psychology mentors, all those things, I'm like, all right, I have all these things that work. Now, how am I going to simplify it on what's going to work for me? Right? Going back to journaling, this is where journaling is going to come into play with all the details that you write, and you're going to really figure out what's going to work for you. For example, for me, I don't really care to take continuation trades or, I wouldn't really say breakouts because some strat setups can be breakout trades. But for example, I excel in reversal trades and reversal setups. I love them. I love getting in the beginning of the move as opposed to in the middle of it or towards the end of it. If I'm getting in at the reversal, then I'm pretty much very, very close or at the beginning of the move. So I can catch as much as I can. And I really learned that after journaling. I would label all my trades. Was this a scalp? Was this a day trade? Was it a swing trade? Was it a reversal? Was it a continuation? All that stuff. And once I collected data for at least like 3 to 6 months, I'm like, all right, it looks like most of my money is coming from reversals. Let me really focus and hone in on that. And the continuation trades, let me simplify it and see which specific ones work and which specific ones tend to not work and go from there. Cool. Let's see. Any last things? I think that's pretty much it. Can't really think of anything right now. Oh, actually, one last thing. I kind of mentioned that earlier in the patience thing, but I'll just bring it up because I always see this a lot. If you're a new trader, take your time. Don't expect, going back to expectations, don't expect to be a profitable or a professional trader in a year, right? There was a new individual in my group. I think he's been trading for like 6 to 7 months now, maybe 5 to 6. And he was getting super frustrated because he wasn't getting the results that he wanted. And it's like, dude, like you're still new, like relax, right? This is the process, this is the learning process. You need to really enjoy and love the process of the trials and tribulations that is trading, right? That frustration was coming from at least what we spoke on, coming from like where he thought he should be, whereas where he just needed to be in his trading career. Again, there's a lot of refinement and things that you need to experience in your trading to get where you need to be. So just enjoy the process, right? Trading isn't going anywhere. Take your time. You have the rest of your life. I'm pretty sure if you're trading now, you're probably going to be trading for the next 10, 20, 30, 40 years. You know, don't rush it. You don't go to college to be a surgeon and be like, hey, I want to operate today. It's like they're going to look at you weird. Like, what are you talking about? You have to finish all of med school, practice on the cadavers or the fake bodies. And then once you show us that you know what you're doing, then you're going to operate on a real human being. So, again, step by step, do not try to skip things, do not try to rush things. You're going to mess yourself up. And with that being said, pretty much all I have for this video. Appreciate you guys so much for watching. And as always, like, subscribe if you enjoyed this. If this was helpful for you in any way, let me know what stood out to you in the comments or if you're experiencing anything that's here. If you want to work with me or join my group, all those links are in the description. Feel free to email me if you have any questions as well. And enjoy your weekend. I will see you guys on the next one. Take care.